Hi everybody, my name is Danielle Nicole and welcome to Monetary Makeup. So I am in my mid-30s, I have oily, dehydrated, acne-prone skin, and I actually was a pretty big fan of the KVD Good Apple foundation. So I was really excited to hear that KVD was releasing their iconic Good Apple in a concealer. So I'm going to be doing swatches, a demo, as well as a wear test. And I typically use these concealers as foundation in addition to concealer. That way you can get a really good idea of how it sits on the skin. Now I also have a pretty funny story regarding this new concealer, so definitely stick around if you want to hear that. And while we review this new KVD Good Apple Concealer, the topic of the day is going to be regarding saving for retirement and what are 3 tips you may want to consider to get a number so you can retire on your own terms. So if you're excited to get started and enjoy the video while you're watching, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and let's get started right now. Now the only thing I have on makeup wise so far is a little bit of eyeshadow and mascara. I will be finishing up the rest of my eye makeup and brows once I am finished with the complexion products. Now the only thing I have on my skin is the Watermelon Niacinamide Dewdrops, and for primer today I'm going to use the e.l.f. Acne Fighting Putty Primer. I don't find that this really does anything to the longevity of the makeup or the skin. However, it does have salicylic acid in the ingredient, so that's what I'm going to be using today. Alright, while I quickly apply this, I am going to tell you guys the funny story regarding this concealer. So being that I am someone who reviews makeup on YouTube, I typically try to get these new releases as soon as I can. So when this was released, I ordered it directly from the KVD website. So I was on my way home from work and I checked the notification for the mail, and it actually was supposed to arrive last week, and it said that it was going to arrive 2 days early. So I was really excited. Of course, getting your package a couple days early is always a good thing, right? So I get home from work and I come inside, I open the package, and guess what's inside the package? Nothing. I kid you not, you guys. So of course, a lot of companies send free samples. So the only thing inside were the 2 free samples, no concealer, nada. So to be honest, I wasn't even that mad. I mean, yes, it was frustrating, but it was so funny just to open up your package and have nothing in it. So that's why this review is coming up a little bit late. I ended up being able to snag 2 shades for you guys at Ulta because I'm still waiting on the other items from KVD. Now, I do want to mention, I called KVD right away. They were really nice about it, and they are shipping the other concealers out as soon as possible. So the customer service overall was great. I just wasn't a fan of whoever packaged my order. So before we do the demo, let's get started with swatches. So I picked up 2 shades for you guys. So the first is a more concealer or lightening shade, which is the shade Light 109. And for the skin, I picked up Medium 126. Now, the one thing I want to mention about both the KVD foundation and concealer, I do find it runs about 2 shades lighter than expected, so just wanted to mention that. Alright, so here are the swatches. So the very first swatch is the Good Apple foundation in the shade Light 010. This is the KVD concealer in the shade Medium 126. And this is also the new KVD concealer in the shade Light 109. Alright, I know I am looking like a lioness with this headband on and my curly hair. It's kind of funny. I'm getting a kick out of it. But I did want to put my hair back, that way you guys can see better. So I just wanted to show you what the skin is looking like with only that e.l.f. primer on. As I mentioned, I don't really find that the acne primer fills in the pores or does anything like that. It just hydrates the skin and kind of gives a nice base to get started. Now, in case you haven't heard the details about this concealer, on the back of the packaging it reads, "For under eyes and beyond, crease resistant, no cake, full coverage, infused with apple extract to help nourish skin. All right, I'm not gonna lie, I do like an easy description. Those ones that promise to cook your dinner and save your skin and prevent aging is a little bit much for me. So now I do want to mention both of these shades are supposed to have a cool undertone, and I would agree with those claims. I do find that KVD does a great job with the shade matches, other than them running about 2 shades lighter than it looks like online, at least in the swatches. So overall, I think these are going to be a great shade match for my fair to light cool undertone. Now, when I was swatching these, they do feel pretty runny, so I am going to give it a little bit of a shake. Now, these concealers retail for $28, and you do get 0.33 ounces. Just for comparison, that is the same size as Tarte Shape Tape, even though the bottles look a little bit shorter. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the packaging. I think it's really cute. And then you just have your standard doe foot. So overall, packaging looks nice. Now, I always wipe off the doe foot. That way I don't apply too much. So I'm just going to start to dab on a little bit. And if I have to add more, we can always do that. You guys know, using my favorite concealer brush, this is the Shop Miss A AOA Studio number E102. I'm going to be using a brush for the under eyes and then probably a sponge for the rest of the skin. So we'll see how this does. Now, light 109 is actually I think it says cool neutral undertone. If any of you have the same kind of undertone and shade as me, this is a great shade, I can tell already. It is more of a lightening one, as I mentioned. So yeah, really happy with this shade match so far. Holy cow. So a little bit goes a very long way. I mean, I hardly put anything on this skin and it is spreading like wildfire. Wow. All right, I think this looks great so far. I would say it does feel like a more matte finish, which I find interesting because I think that it said it's supposed to be a more hydrating formula. So far, it doesn't feel extremely dry or cakey or anything like that. But I just wanted to mention it does feel a little bit matte. So what do you guys think? No concealer? Concealer. All right, let's get the other eye on. Now, I believe this concealer claims to be crease resistant. So as someone who is nearing 40 here, I am all down for a crease resistant concealer. We'll see if it actually does that at the end of the day, of course. All right, so that was one very, very light layer. As I mentioned, I wiped off the doe foot. So holy cow, the coverage on this is definitely full coverage. And I do recommend working in sections. It almost appears that it's self-set. So I don't know if I'm actually going to use any powder today. I just want to kind of see how it performs. So overall, this is what the under eyes are looking like. What do you guys think? All right, let's move on to the shade Medium 126. And I'm going to use my damp Shop Miss A sponge, which is the black one. Shake this up a little bit. Now be careful when you do open this. If you open it too fast or shove the doe foot back in too fast, it does kind of splash at you a little bit. You know how Tarte Shape Tape does that as well? So just be careful. All right, I'm gonna start to blend this in. Just did a few dots so far, and we'll see if we need to build it up at all. I'm so happy that the shade matches seem to be great. It was really difficult to tell online, and there haven't really been many reviews up yet. So I wasn't sure what shades to order, but I did remember the foundation running light. So I'm glad I did not go with the fairest shade. Now I'm definitely a fair to light skin tone for sure. However, it's nice to know that, you know, those shades do run pretty fair, and the deep range looked pretty good too. So I'm thinking I am going to do both sides first and then go back in with a little bit more if I have to. Now, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I have hardly anything on my skin. So a little bit is definitely going a long way on the face as well. So just like the foundation, I do find if you go in with a very light layer, you do get a very natural finish. See, and this is why I didn't find the foundation was cakey or heavy or anything like that. But I think that's because I prefer to use a damp sponge and I only picked up a tiny bit of product. So I think the concealer looks fantastic so far. As I mentioned, one very light layer. What do you guys think so far? I think it took down pretty much most of the redness on the skin. I would definitely be comfortable with only wearing this much. However, I do want to build it up just a little bit more because I do get a little bit of redness in this area. So just going to add a little bit more here. I guess I should have mentioned in the intro, if you guys are expecting me to really use a ton of product, that is just not what I am about. Because I have oily dehydrated skin, if I go in with too much product, it typically, emphasizes those dry patches really bad. Now, I do have a ton of dehydration around my nose and my mouth. That is just always the area I get dehydrated in. And so far, it doesn't seem like it is clinging to any of that. And then I always take just a tiny bit on the tip of my sponge here to go in where the creases of the nose are. So I just took the tiniest little bit, and I always do that for the nose creases to make sure the product is really pressed into those small areas. All right, you guys, so I just finished blending out the rest of the concealer on the rest of the skin. I have to say, it looks really good, you guys. So as I mentioned, I have a lot of dehydration around my nose and around my mouth, and it doesn't appear to be clinging to any of that. And then this is what the under eyes are looking like. I'm not noticing any creasing yet. Granted, keep in mind, I didn't do a huge triangle, so if I did that, I really don't know any concealer that wouldn't crease at least a little bit. But anyways, what do you guys think so far? Now, I do want to mention, I do feel like even though this concealer doesn't claim to be self-setting, I feel like it is self-setting because I don't feel like it looks super dewy. However, it doesn't look extremely matte either. It definitely leans more matte than dewy, but it's not sucking the life out of my skin or anything like that. So overall, I'd say it's a nice natural finish so far. So I'm going to finish up the rest of my makeup and be right back. Hi everybody, so I just finished up the rest of my makeup and I just wanted to show you what the skin is looking like. Now I do want to mention, I decided to not go in with any powder whatsoever because I really do think this concealer is self-setting. At least it appears to be that way on my skin. So I just went in with all creams and balms today. So I don't know, what do you guys think about this concealer as foundation as well as under the eyes thus far? Just taking a look in my mirror that I have off to the side here, I think my skin looks really great. It's not clinging to any of my dehydration. It doesn't look super dewy and oily. It's a very natural finish. I do also want to mention that when I was applying the rest of my makeup, such as blush, highlighter, bronzer, and all of that good stuff, I didn't notice any of the concealer picking up. So once again, that's always a good sign. All right, next let's cut into the topic of the day, and then I will meet you back here at the end of the night for my final thoughts and a wear test. Hi everybody, welcome to the topic of the day. So one of the most popular questions I get, being that I work in the financial services industry, is how much money should I start saving today to be able to retire on my own terms? Well, in order to answer this question, I first have to mention there is no one generic number that will match everyone's retirement goals. So the first tip I have for you if you're looking to start saving for retirement is to meet with a financial advisor. And the reason being is that most financial advisors have calculators, tools, and resources, and they are able to help guide you using those tools to come up with a number that makes sense for your savings. Now, if you are not quite ready to meet with a financial advisor today, but you do want to start saving for retirement, then I have 3 tips that you may want to consider. And those 3 factors are time horizon, risk tolerance, and goals/income. So the reason time horizon is so important is because, of course, someone who is, say, 30 years old versus someone who is 55 years old, the time horizon they have in order to save for retirement is a huge factor. So I encourage you to really sit down and think about when you plan to retire, and then that way you can have a little bit better idea of how to break down those numbers. Now, the second factor is risk tolerance. Now, for most people, they're not able to save up enough money to live comfortably in retirement, or they may not want to rely on only Social Security, so many people turn to retirement accounts or investments. Now, risk tolerance is also extremely important because the level of risk you have will directly reflect your rate of return. Now, the generic rule is the younger you are, the more risk you can take, and the older you are, the less risk you should take. However, I'm not a really big fan of these generic advice tips because a lot of the times there are exceptions and unique goals that can affect everyone's specific situation. And the third factor I take into account is their life and retirement goals, as well as their current and expected income. Because at the end of the day, whatever income you have is going to directly affect the amount of money you can save. Now, in addition to income, retirement goals are also equally important. So whenever I meet with folks and ask about retirement, they typically give me an age they expect to retire. While age is of course important, a lot of folks haven't really thought through the details about how they specifically would like to retire. So would you be more comfortable traveling multiple times throughout the year around the world? Or are you planning on having a small quaint cabin and reading for retirement? So if you aren't quite ready to meet with a financial advisor, I really encourage you to dig deep and think about the details of how you expect or want to retire. So hopefully considering your time horizon, risk tolerance, and goals/income will help you determine the details on how much you need to save for retirement. Now, the last thing I want to mention is I know it can be really tempting to go on the internet and Google how much money should I save for retirement. But the reality is, at the end of the day, it is pretty difficult to find out if those are credible resources. Now, if you are at the point that you have not started saving for retirement, then I highly encourage you to sit down and first create a budget. Because a budget is going to help clarify, that way you have a specific dollar amount that you are comfortable with setting aside. And at the end of the day, getting started with savings for retirement is half the battle. So if you are looking to start saving for retirement, I do hope that learning about time horizon, risk tolerance, and goals/income was helpful. All right, I will meet you guys at the end of the night for my final thoughts and a wear test. Hi you guys, so I just got home from work. It actually was a longer day than I expected, so it's been about 10 hours since I last checked in with you. You have to excuse me, I am bundled up because it is freezing today. And I just noticed as I walked inside, it is starting to rain. So we're getting freezing rain in the dead of winter right now. And my lips are really chapped, so I'm just going to reapply my NYX Butter Gloss. Oh my gosh, you guys, these NYX Butter Glosses are amazing. I love the formula. I know this is about the concealer today, but my lips are really dry, so I'm just going to add a little bit of this real quick. You guys, I am still laughing so hard about that KVD order. Like, I wish I could have been there when they were filling my order. Like, did they look at the sheet and just go, you know what? I am just not feeling like putting any of their concealer in their order, so I'm just going to send them an empty package. I don't know. I thought it was really funny. I'm still laughing about it. All right, so now that my lips have been hydrated, let's take a look at the skin. Okay, so I am definitely much more dewy than when I first put on the concealer. Oh my gosh, another funny story, you guys. So I left my house and I went to work, and I was looking in the car mirror and I was like, something doesn't look right. It's not my skin, but what is going on? I just completely forgot to do my brows. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but as a blonde, I was like, oh my gosh, I probably look so crazy with eye makeup, foundation, or concealer and all of that stuff. So that was something else I forgot to do today. So if you're wondering why I have a little bit of brow gel on now and I didn't earlier, that's why. All right, so first, before I get into my final thoughts, let me lean in a little closer so you can see what my skin is looking like. So yeah, much more dewy than when I first checked in with you guys, or when I first applied. Oop, I still have my earpiece on from work. Sorry, guys. But anyways, yeah, it's definitely much more dewy, but it's not like an oily, greasy mess. You know, when you're oily, there's a fine line between a healthy, dewy finish and also being oily. So I do think that this does lean more matte when you first apply the product, and it does appear to self-set. However, on my skin, it definitely got much more dewy throughout the day. Now, I always point out, especially around my nose and around my mouth, that is just one of the more problematic areas for my skin. And looking up close in the mirror, you guys, it looks really good. I don't know if you noticed, but I have so much makeup on my table. I just almost knocked over a whole tower of brushes. But anyways, I'm not noticing it, you know, like clinging to any of those areas. And I didn't have to wear a mask or anything today, but I still see the concealer around the skin. So that's awesome. All right, now, if you remember, as far as the under eyes go, I did not use any setting powder today. So here's what I think. Do I think this is 100% crease proof? Maybe if you're 18. I really don't know any concealers that don't crease just the tiniest bit, at least at the end of the day. However, with all of that said, I think the under eyes look fantastic. I am definitely a big fan of this concealer. So for whatever reason, I'm not noticing really any creasing on this side, but on this eye right here, if you look really close right up in this area, there is just ever so slightly the tiniest bit of creasing. So I don't think that those claims are 100% true, but on my skin, I feel like they're 90% true, if that makes sense, because there is hardly any creasing. So I can only imagine that going in with a setting spray, a setting powder, as well as a primer, I would imagine it would only look even more beautiful. So as I said, I am definitely a huge fan of this concealer. I just don't know if those that have extremely dry skin would appreciate this concealer as much as I do, but you guys are going to have to let me know. If any of you have dry skin and you've tried this new Good Apple concealer, definitely share your thoughts and your experience down below. So I recently reviewed the new NYX Serum Concealer. I definitely feel like that concealer is much more hydrating. However, it is not quite as full coverage as this concealer. So I'm a little bit torn between those two. I know they're totally different prices, but I really like this one for that more medium to full coverage, semi-matte finish that gets a little more dewy throughout the day, whereas the NYX concealer is a more medium finish, but that one's definitely more hydrating. So I think those two concealers have to be my top two so far. All right, now I want to hear from all of you guys down below. Have you picked up this new Good Apple concealer? Have you tried it out? What is your skin type? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Let me know all of your thoughts down below. All right, really excited. I had another win for a new concealer today. I just want to thank you guys so much for watching another one of my videos. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit the notification bell. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye, guys.